realized I was running out of liquid soap, so we are going to make some today. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikki. Let's get started. For this liquid soap recipe, you're going to need some castor oil, olive oil, vegetable glycerin, a kitchen scale, a crock pot, an immersion blender, and some potassium hydroxide. When you're working with cold processed soaps, you are going to be using a sodium hydroxide, which is lye. But today we're going to be working with potassium hydroxide, which is a caustic potash. I always think it's so funny to say that. Anyways, we're going to start by weighing out our ingredients separately and then adding them into our crock pot. We will start with our bowl onto the scale and zero it out. We are going to do 325 grams of olive oil. And into our crock pot. If you watched one of my last videos, I made a cold processed soap bar. I'll link it here if you missed it. But in that video, I accidentally forgot the coconut oil, which I also forgot in this video. So I'm just gonna quickly go grab that. It is 125 grams of coconut oil. So again, zero out your scale. Not everybody likes using bar soap as a hand soap. I've come to realize that more people are weirded out by it than I thought. So this is a wonderful alternative if you have sensitive skin and you want to still make your own soap. The coconut oil goes into the crock pot. Zero out your scale once more. And then in goes your castor oil. It is 50 grams. So in my last video, I talked about not just blindly trusting recipes that you find online. If you do the wrong ratios of lye to fat, you can have a product that burns your skin. So make sure that you're running your recipes through a soap calculator just to make sure you can formulate, play around with your own recipes doing this. I'm working on a tallow liquid soap because I think that would be super cool. Tallow doesn't lend itself super well to liquid soaps, but we're gonna try it. So now the crock pot goes onto the base and we're going to melt these oils down until they're completely liquid and combined. While the oils are cooking in the crock pot, we are going to measure out our glycerin just to have that ready. It's going to be 114 grams. Okay, and once we have that ready, we'll just set it off to the side. Now we're going to move on to our lye mixture. So that video that I just talked about where I made the cold process soap, I showed you all of the safety information that you need to be working with lye. I'm just gonna run over it really quickly, but anytime you're working with lye or caustic potash, you want to wear long sleeve shirts, long pants, eyeglasses or goggles, and some gloves on your hands. You also want to do it in a well-ventilated area that is outside typically. I'm not going to take you outside today, but if you want, you can go back to that video and check it out. Okay, we're at the crock pot. All of the oils have melted. We're going to take the lid off. Our lye mixture has been sitting, so we're going to pour that into the oils. Again, being very, very careful not to get any on our skin. Then we're going to take our immersion blender and blend it up. We're going to keep mixing this until it is looking a little bit thicker and mix in the glycerin. You can see that it's looking a little bit like applesauce. Texturally, it even has those little grainy bits. So we're gonna keep mixing until this resembles a mashed potato instead of an applesauce. You can see that this is much closer to mashed potatoes. It is even a little bit hard. Now we're gonna let this cook on low for between 30 minutes and 2 hours, however long it takes to reach a petroleum jelly see-through like consistency. I'm just gonna pop the lid on and we're gonna set it aside. Let's take the lid off and check it out. Okay, so I would say this is looking like petroleum jelly. It's quite hard, but still malleable. So what we're going to do is turn it off the heat. I have these little pH testers, so I'm gonna just use that. Give it a couple seconds here. And then we're going to just compare. You want the pH to be between 6 and 10. The other thing you can do is take a little bit of boiling hot water and a little bit of the soap paste. And mix it together. I'm going to give mine a shake. Well, you can see it's very sudsy, so that's awesome. Then I'm just gonna let that sit and we're gonna make sure that it's clear. You do not want it to be cloudy. If it's clear, it is ready to go. Okay, so let's take a quick peek. You can see that that looks pretty clear. So that's ready to use. I have my soap paste completely done, so now I'm going to show you how to reconstitute it to make your own soap, and I'm also going to go over how to store the leftovers if you don't want to reconstitute it all at once. So first we're going to start with the reconstitution information. In order to reconstitute this soap and make it into the liquid that you want it to be, you need 1 part of soap paste to 1.5 parts of water. So we're going to need our scale again. And I'm going to put my saucepan onto the scale. We're going to zero it out. And then I'm going to start measuring some soap paste. This is very, very sticky. Kind of tricky to work with. The more that I make soap, the more I understand why people are kind of hesitant to try it. Because there is definitely a very steep learning curve to it. But once you get it figured out, it is so much fun. And you get to customize it however you want, which is just awesome. So I've got 150 grams of soap paste. And now I'm going to pour in 325 grams of distilled water. I did forget to mention in the very beginning of this video that all of the water we're going to be using has to be distilled. You cannot use tap water for this, especially when you're doing your clarity test. The minerals in tap water can cause it to be cloudy even if your soap base is done. So steer clear and just do some distilled. Now we're going to zero out the scale again and we're going to do 225 grams, not 325 grams. So you want 1.5 times. We're going to take this over to the stove and I'll show you how we cook it down. Now it's on the stove and we're going to turn it on to a very low, gentle heat. You want this to be low because you do not want to burn any of your soap. We're just going to start breaking up some of these chunks. Okay, so I've had it on the heat for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to give it a quick little mix. You can see that there's some steam coming off of this. So I'm going to turn off the heat, cover it, and then let it sit just like this for at least 1.5 hours. All right, let's check this out. It's been about 4 hours. Oh, that looks great. Okay, so I am going to pour this into a jar and weigh it out so I can figure out how much essential oils to put in. Okay, no matter which way this works, I cannot figure it out. So I'm just gonna pour it off camera. And it's 378 grams. So we're going to do a 2% essential oil ratio. So all you need to do is take your calculator. 378 times 2% gives you 7.56 grams. This is the maximum amount of essential oils that you can put in here, so it will not burn. You can definitely use less, whatever your preference is. So we're going to zero this out. And I'm going to be making a vanilla spice today. So we will just start with the vanilla. Essential oils are pretty light, so I'm not convinced that we're gonna get even close to that amount. So we have 1 gram, 2, and then we're gonna do a little bit of nutmeg. And a little bit of clove. And then I'm gonna give it a quick mix and take a smell. Oh, interesting. It might actually need more. So basically play around with what scent you want. You could use fragrance oils, but they can be a hormonal disruptant. So this is quite thin, but it's very concentrated. So you don't need to add that much to your water. If you like thicker soap though, there are different steps that you can take. So basically to make this thicker, we just need to add some water and some salt. And it's 42 grams of water, 14 grams of salt. Okay, so you add a little bit of the salt mixture. Give it a good mix. And just add more if you need it. But this is thickening up very nicely. This is completely safe to use now, so we are just going to fill up our container. I'm gonna use a funnel though. And there you have it. The second, potentially more easy way to reconstitute your soap would be to have your scale and your jar. This is the container you'd like to make your soap in. Zero it out. Do the same steps, the 1 to 1.5 ratio. In this case, I'm going for 100 grams of soap base. And then 150 grams of hot distilled water. Now we're going to put the lid on it, and we're just going to set it off to the side to reconstitute. Whenever you think about it, you can just give it a little shake, but we will be back in a little bit to check on this. Okay, so back to this way of reconstituting. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a shake because there's still a little bit left in there. Yeah, you can see there's a couple lumps still. So we're going to give this a few more hours and check on it in a bit. The one other thing we're going to do is test the pH of this. So just dunk your pH strip test in there. And again, you want it between 6 and 10. So to figure out the weight of the soap in here, I'm just going to weigh out how much this jar weighs. It's the same jar. I'm going to place it on the scale, zero that out, and then this should tell me how much is in here. So we have 327 grams. And if you remember, it's a 2%. So we go 328 grams times 2% will give us 6.56 grams of essential oils. So we will not go above 6.5 grams. This time I'm going to make a minty orange. So I have my orange here, and it comes out a lot quicker. So I'm going to be very conscientious. We're at 4, and then we'll do 2 grams of peppermint. We'll give this a mix. To thicken it up, we put a little bit of that salt water that we made, just a tiny little bit. So it's still thin. We'll add a little bit more. And we are going to call that perfect. So I'm going to set this aside for the next time that I need some soap. It will be ready to go. This is something that I'm thinking of selling on my website. So if you would be interested in buying the paste and then reconstituting it yourself, definitely let me know in the comments below, or you can send me an email. I really do love to hear from you guys. So what we're going to do is we are going to zero out our scale with our container on it and then put the soap paste in. That way you can know exactly how much is in here, and it's super quick and easy to reconstitute. I'm going for 180 grams here. Perfect. Okay, so this one we'll put off to the side for now. I'm going to be gifting some to my friend for Christmas, so I'm going to put a smaller jar here just so they can try out a little batch. Again, zeroing it out so you know exactly how much paste is in there. So this paste is no longer caustic, it's not going to hurt you. So as long as you've done the clarity test, tested the pH, you should be good to go. I'm going to aim for 100 grams of soap paste here. Perfect. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I'm just going to put a lid onto this gifting one, and then I will show you how I label this in a few minutes. I'm gonna do one more little jar to gift as well. What I'm gonna do quickly for the gifts that I have is I'm going to measure out how much 150 grams of water is in terms of cups. So the people that I gift it to don't necessarily need a scale. And it looks like it's 3/4 of a cup of water, give or take a little bit. When you're reconstituting soap, it does not need to be exact. You can kind of play around with the ratios to make it a thicker or a thinner soap depending on what you prefer. Sometimes when I watch tutorials like this, I have a hard time figuring out how to clean up after the activity. So today I'm just going to show you. With this crock pot that we made the initial paste in and the immersion blender, I'm just going to put them into my sink and run some hot water. This is all soap, so basically it is super easy to clean and it is safe to use already. And then just let it sit like this to allow that paste to kind of dissolve. And then you can just go in with a sponge and clean it all up. If you have dish gloves, I would recommend using them because sometimes around the edges here, you'll get some unsaponified soap and that stuff can technically burn. So just to be on the safe side, maybe wear a pair of kitchen gloves. Well, there you have it. This is how you can make your own liquid soap at home completely from scratch. Let me know in the comments down below if you try this out. I'm very interested to hear how it goes for other people. And if this video helped you, please consider giving it a like. It really helps support my channel. And consider subscribing. I do a lot of home study type things on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you more than you know. Take care.